Hey everybody, welcome to day 2 of Breakfast with Bob. We are at the two-time New York City Triathlon. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are part of the Lifetime Fitness Series. 8 races around the country. Next year here in New York will be the championship races. One of the big things about this event is para-triathlon, which has been going on for years and years. For the first time ever, para-triathlon was in the Paralympics in 2016. And the para-triathletes can't do what they do without the amazing support of the handlers who help them out with us, Carrie Stevens and Susan Graham. And Susan, let's start with you for a second. How long have you been doing the whole handling thing?
Thank you, Bob, for the opportunity.
Sure.
Love speaking about this. I started as a handler for this race in 2008.
Okay. And were you doing triathlons yourself at that point?
I was. I just started as a triathlon that spring.
Okay. And what was it about being a handler that sort of spoke to you?
It definitely inspired me, having done a race and then experiencing it through watching them and,
Yes.
and their difficulties, and also just, I worked with Sarah Reinerston,
Yes.
who's an amazing athlete, professional athlete, and it was a real teaching experience for me to have someone who is such a great triathlete,
Right.
and so meticulous with her preparation and her speed and just her performance, and also just all the planning that goes into a triathlon and the execution, that for me I was so inspired by her, just as in every way.
What's fascinating about it, especially in this race, because the swim is a mile from the transition, and so you have to walk over to where the swim is, and then when your athlete jumps in the water, you've got to get back to transition. You're dealing with an amputee for this one, so you've got to get that leg back to transition, and it's not just a long walk, it's a mile, but it's also a fast current, so it's a really fast swim. How challenging is that?
It's hard. You have to start before a lot of times they'll be sitting on the dock before they've even left the dock.
Yes.
And you're already making your way down to the swim exit.
Booking.
And running with the leg. And they're heavy. I mean,
Right.
it's, in order to counterbalance for the body, it's not a light piece of equipment.
No, it isn't. And so Carrie, let's come over to you for a second. Let's grab that microphone. How did you get into all of this in terms of the handling?
So last year was my first year handling for the New York City Triathlon. I've been doing triathlons for 5 or 6 years. I was starting to get a little burned out with the training. I still loved it, but I just felt like something was missing.
Sometimes when we do it for a long time, one, it can feel like a job. 2, it's almost like I'm being so selfish. I'm just riding, running, and swimming by myself for myself. And I'm betting being a handler sort of rejuvenated.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the experience of actually doing a triathlon,
Yes.
swimming, biking, and running. It's something that has totally shaped my worldview. I've made so many great friends here in the New York City community from triathlon. So if I can help somebody else have that experience, I mean, to me, that's what sport is all about.
Exactly. And you have run the gamut. You've worked with visually impaired athletes. You've worked with, you're working with a wheelchair athlete here.
Yes.
So with the wheelchair athletes, so obviously they're swimming without any help. But then they've got a hand cycle for the bike and a racing chair for the run. So you need to be a little bit of a roadie with all the equipment.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a Sherpa.
Yes, you are.
for this race. So like Susan was saying, when we start the swim, I'll help.
That's when your race starts.
Oh, that's what. Yeah. So we'll help our athlete get into the water, and then we just book it with the chair. We're sprinting down with the everyday chair.
And we're talking when you're running with that chair, it's a narrow path with all these 4,000 people heading your direction. You're basically doing the same. You're going upstream. You're going against everybody with a chair. Trying to get through.
Yeah, we had a nice system worked out last year. So the guy I was handling with, he was in charge of the chair. I would go in front of the chair and start and
get
clearing
people
a
out
path.
of the way.
Yeah. Luckily, we made it to the swim exit before our athlete got there, and that was the goal. So
What's the challenge when you're dealing with visually impaired athlete?
Basically, what I try to think is when I'm guiding a visually impaired athlete, what am I seeing? What am I experiencing that they can't see?
Right.
What are things that I am aware of that would help them?
So you are, when you're guiding you're swimming with them, biking with them, running with them.
Right.
So you tandem bike, and then so that's a lot different than running with the chair. You're participating at this point.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So especially on the run, I'm very, very communicative.
Yes.
The athlete who I guide, he loves training with me just because I'm talking nonstop.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, the more information you can relay, the better, I find. So.
Well, I've guided before, and what I found was I was more worn out by doing the guiding than I was for racing, because your senses are so on fire, because you're like, oh my God, there's a zot dot in the road, there's a crack, there's a curb, there's a low-hanging tree when you're on the bike. All those things, you find that you're just wiped out after a workout or a race?
It is definitely more of a mental challenge than a physical. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
So I've experienced that as well.
So are you racing yourself still in terms of triathlon?
Yes. I'll do a couple races this year. My main event is a swim run stage race in Virginia.
Oh, that
in
sounds
October.
cool.
Yeah, so it'll be something that kind of
different?
Exactly, yeah. Rejuvenates my training a little bit, and then next year we'll probably make the jump to a 70.3. So.
Okay, so Susan, let's talk a little bit again about, as an athlete, as somebody who's been doing this for a number of years now, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay inspired?
I think it's always a learning process. Every race teaches me a lesson. I'll go in it with, thinking I have a certain expectation, and sometimes, you'll either fulfill that expectation or it'll look something different than what you kind of envisioned going in. And so I think for me, it's always kind of, safety is always number one for me above anything else. It can be a dangerous sport.
Yes.
And so that's always, when I come out of a race and I've crossed the finish line and I'm healthy and in one piece, I'm happy. So that's always, and it's giving thanks to my body for being able to do this, and that's amazing.
Did you have sports growing up?
I did. I was a swimmer when I was little, and then I started doing track and cross country in high school, and so I've always been an athlete. It's just been a passion. It's really it's really what I am at heart, for sure.
So you've got your CAF shirt on, obviously exposed to Challenge Athletes Foundation. Well, and you mentioned Sarah Reinertson, who's one of the spokespeople for CAF, Forever, Never, Never.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your connection to the Challenge Athletes Foundation.
So I first got connected to CAF through a friend of mine that was in a triathlon club here in New York City. And it was his first time, I think, kind of putting together this race in New York and involving CAF with the race. And he was looking for volunteers. And I said, sign me up. It sounds great.
Yes.
I had no idea what I was signing up for or getting into. And it's ever since I've, anytime there's an event here for CAF, I'm always wanting to volunteer. I volunteer for the annual gala
Also,
every year.
you've been at the gala.
Yes, every year for the gala since 2008.
Pretty special.
Amazing night. It's one of the highlights of the year for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what do you have coming up in terms of your own racing? I know you're saying that this year was a little bit lower key. You've done
a little low
3
key.
Ironmans sort of back to back to back.
I did them
it's a little
back to
crazy.
back. So it was a lot, and I loved it. But now I'm kind of focusing on just getting back to working out just for pleasure and staying in shape and exploring other things as well, like yoga and just running, not necessarily for time or racing, just for fun. And so it's been nice. Yeah, I'm starting graduate school in the fall, so I'm excited about that.
Cool.
So yeah,
it's one of those sports that's so all-encompassing.
it is.
That it becomes your social group. It becomes
Yes.
I get out here on the weekend. I know I've got to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I can't go stay up late on Friday night. Balance is something that a lot of triathletes have a hard time and struggle with.
It's true, yeah. And I felt like my life was not in balance, especially at the tail end of 3 Ironman. I just, I felt like I was missing out on some things, and, I wanted to refocus in terms of career-wise and other passions that I have, too.
Okay, so back over here. So Carrie, when you look forward in the sport of triathlon? What are your goals? Do you have some things you want to do next year?
Yes, I want it to be fun. Number one,
right?
Because at the end of the day, this is something that is it's a hobby for us.
Absolutely,
yeah,
we're not making money off of this stuff.
We're not paying our bills doing this, so it's got to be fun. It's got to be something that we're passionate about, and it's got to be something that brings us alive. And whatever that entails in the future, whether that's a 70.3, whether that's an Ironman, whether that's an off-road Xterra race, I mean, I'm open to anything. So we'll see.
So when you're guiding a visually impaired athlete, what are some of the most interesting moments that you've had? Because I know I've had some where all of a sudden, I have no idea where we were going, but the blind guy in the back was like in 3 blocks turn left. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So anything from that sticks with you from your moments of guiding a visually impaired athlete?
I guided my athlete for a marathon this past March, and it was a very local, kind of low-key race. Right. There weren't a ton of volunteers on the course. Parts of the course weren't all that clearly marked, but we did get to a part where it was just a straightaway. And one of the guides announced it. She's like, okay, we're going to hit a straightaway in about 50 meters. And I've done a lot of running with my athlete. I know him pretty well. We have a very good relationship. And as soon as she said the thing about the straightaway, I said, that does not mean sprint. He goes, wait, how did you know that's what I was thinking? So we're on the same wavelength. So I kind of,
you can read. Yeah. And have there been points where where your athlete has surprised you, where they've maybe performed better than you thought that was going to happen?
I think, any day that you can go out and run a marathon or complete a triathlon is a great day. And at least for our training now, we kind of go into it with the mentality of it's about the experience. I mean, we don't really go into it with a goal time or certain splits that we're trying to hit. It's all about enjoying the process, soaking it in, and having fun together.
Right.
And he's really helped me bring that mentality back to my own training, because as age groupers, it's so easy to get obsessed with splits and our power outputs and podium finishes and all of
carbohydrates per hour and everything else.
Totally.
And recovery.
Totally.
Yeah, it's all consuming. It is definitely all consuming. With your guiding a visually impaired athlete to me is one of the most amazing things there is, because sometimes you get to the point where the athlete's getting faster and faster, and you're going, oh my God, I have to work harder here to keep up. What happens when it gets to the point where I need to find them somebody faster?
Well, I haven't experienced that firsthand yet, but there have been a couple workouts that we'll do in Central Park, and he likes to finish out with a sprint.
Yes.
And normally what happens is I have a morning workout that I do, and my legs are just totally taxed. So I can do a 6 or 7 mile easy run with him, but when we get to the end, like I can't hang. So I'll tell him, all right, you've got clear space for 25 meters, and go for it. I'll be right here. But I can't I can't sprint with you right now.
When you finish a race, when you're guiding a visually impaired athlete, you're a particular guy, does it mean more than if you're just finishing a race yourself?
It does, absolutely. Racing is something, before I've had these experiences, I took for granted that I had the ability to do this, that I had the passion to do this. And when you take yourself out of it, when you make it about something larger, and it's not about you, it's not about your race, it's not about your PR, it's just so much more rewarding.
I love that. And Susan, for you, when you're you'll be out there, you have an amputee athlete tomorrow, when that person finishes, will you feel as good as if you had just finished?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge, immense sense of pride, and it feels like a great opportunity to be part of that, to be part of someone's race, and to really see a dream come true for them. And if I could help in any way, and my helping is small compared to what they're doing. I mean, they're really out there. They're racing. They're fighting the elements. They're getting up that hill, and if I can help in any little way, it makes me feel good.
Love it. Thank you both for coming in, and thanks so much for all the help you're offering out there. It makes a huge difference because these athletes, in these particular cases, they can't do it alone. They really do need that support, and you guys are providing that. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Again, we're Breakfast with Bob. We're kicking off this morning, day 2, 2 times you, New York City Triathlon. Hold on, everybody. We will be right back.